Hello team, it's your girl Mel here from Team U Credit and Finance, and for today's video slash message, I want to talk about the art of lending and borrowing. Well, we don't really know if it's an art, but for today's message, I want to talk about the practical reasons why we should not be lending or borrowing money. Well, the first question that I want to ask you is, have you ever gotten that text message or that phone call, and if it was a text message, it literally said, hey, can I borrow some money? I swear or I promise I'm going to pay you back. And you look at the message, or if it's a phone call, even if they call you, you look at it or you listen to it and your stomach literally sinks or your heart starts to beat because in your mind you're like, okay, what is it now? Didn't I just lend you last month? Do I have to be going through this again? When are you ever going to get it together? Those are some of the things that travel through your mind when that person's asking you for money. So I believe constantly borrowing or constantly asking or expecting people to give you money or lend you money, I believe that it's a very bad habit or very bad practice to be a part of or to meddle in. So I just want to talk about some practical ways that we can stop lending people money. And on the other hand, I also want to address where you are not going to be the borrower either. All right. So as usual, I made a list of the reasons why it's not good to lend or to borrow money. So the first one that I want to talk about is the relationship killer. Whenever you lend someone money, if somebody calls you to borrow money from you, let's say you and that person are friends, and I'm talking about just platonic friends. I don't even care if it's your significant other. And the person constantly keeps borrowing money from you. That already is the beginning of the end of the friendship. It's the beginning of the end of the friendship because you now become basically a prisoner. You're basically indebted to always help that person. If you help them one time and maybe they paid back the one time, you help them 2 times, 3 times, it becomes constant. Now, it doesn't matter how well off you are, how good you're doing. Nobody likes it. Even a rich person likes when somebody constantly keeps expecting them to give them money or somebody constantly keeps borrowing money from them. Nobody likes it. And so that relationship, if it's your friend and your friend always keeps borrowing, it just seems like in that friendship that the only reason why you guys are friends is because of the money that you can provide for them. So it becomes a use situation. They're only using that friendship to basically get money from you. And this is the reason why it starts to kill the relationship. It becomes a relationship killer. And nobody likes that because when you think you're genuinely friends with someone, you want somebody to take you and genuinely care for you. You don't want the friendship just to be based on the money or the things that you can provide, the material things. But a lot of people would look at the friendship as just a way for them to get things from you. So that is the first way when you get into a habit of lending people money, it starts to kill that relationship or it starts to kill that friendship. All right, that's the first one. The next thing that happens when you lend people money, it starts to build resentment. And how it builds resentment because you, the creditor or the lender, to your friend, whomever, you resent them for not paying you back. You become angry. The other side of the resentment is where the debtor or the borrower resents you because they know they have to give you the money back. And so as a result, everybody starts dancing around everybody. Everybody starts getting awkward. Nobody wants to pay back. Likewise, you, the lender, you don't want to ask because you know if you ask, it's going to turn into a different story. They're either going to guilt you, or if they don't guilt you, they're going to make you wait forever. And what is ironic about this is that when you were lending them your money, you didn't let them wait. You instantly got that money. You wanted to be a good friend. You said, okay, you know what? I know you have a situation right now. I'm going to do what I can do for you. But what a lot of people need to realize is that when you jump around and you do things for people or you're there for people, a lot of people take your kindness for weakness. They look at it as you're being weak, or they think you're gullible, or they think you're quote unquote stupid. because you're actually kind or you're mature and you're helpful. Because they know if they were in that situation, they would not be as open and kind to you. So what I'm basically saying is that the resentment is built up because you want your money back and because they feel that they should have to pay you that money back. And it's really a sticky situation. Now, can you imagine if you had just said no from the door? Sure, they might or would have been angry with you. But you know what? Let's just let them be angry from the beginning. At least now you don't have to have that anxiety or that resentment deep down in your heart of trying to ask for your money back. Okay? So that's another way resentment builds up and you start to feel awkward when you start lending people money. All right. The next risk or the next thing that happens when you lend people money is that you basically become a bank. You become a bank, quote unquote, with no collateral. And the reason why you don't have any collateral is that you're lending the money to your friend. So you're not doing a contract. You're not doing a payment plan. You're not asking them to put it in writing because you're trusting and you're saying, you know what, it's my friend. It's somebody that I know, somebody that I'm close with. So I don't think the person is basically going to flake and not pay me my money back. In other words, you don't expect for your friend to be dishonest with you. But I can tell you that sometimes the people that end up robbing us is the people that are near and dear to us, the people that we love, the people that we trust, the people that we take as friends. And many a times it could also be family members or significant others. It doesn't matter. A scammer or a con artist is a scammer or a con artist. It doesn't really matter how you know them. All right? So you end up losing your money and you don't want to have to go through the process, especially if there's no contract written, the process of taking them to court, depending on the large sum of money. You lose your money, you don't have any collateral, and I can almost guarantee that you lose that friendship. But on the side of the friendship, my whole thing is that if that person was always borrowing and you genuinely loan that person money, or you try to bail them out of a situation and they don't give you your money back, they never counted you or regarded you as a friend in the first place. So, sometimes God has a way, or some people say the universe has a way of working things out. Maybe that friendship was only based on the money that you could provide for that person. So if it's a case where that friendship has to go sour, sometimes it's a better way to cut your losses. And the plus about cutting your losses is that you never have to loan that person money again. In my opinion, you could take it as a loss. You could take it as a loss of you always losing money and a gain of you not having to deal with somebody that's only using you when they want your money. So that's another thing that happens. You basically take a risk. You risk losing your money. You risk never getting it back because that person does not cooperate and they're not giving you back your money. All right. The next thing that you do when you're lending money that's actually detrimental to you is that you're helping that borrower or that debtor, you're helping them to develop bad habits. I personally believe that a person that constantly borrows money or is always in need and always looking to get it from other people, to me, that's a bad habit. That's not a way to live. Everybody runs short. Everybody has bills. Everybody has indebtedness. They don't need to be sharing or spending their money with people every single month. But you have to understand that the person that's borrowing money from you, they don't really care about what your finance is and about the things that you have to do. So as a result, this is the reason why they keep coming back and borrowing money. So you have to be strong and you have to say, okay, you know what? I'm not in the habit of lending money. And likewise, it's a flip situation. If you don't believe that you should be lending money, right, then likewise, you shouldn't be borrowing money from people either. And I can remember when I was growing up as a child and I would always hear my mother say to me, one day she said to me, you know what? I don't lend and I don't borrow. I don't remember how we came across the situation, the story. But she literally explained to me that borrowing and lending is not something that we should do. So I always tell people the simple solution to this, because as I said before, everybody runs short. I've encouraged people time and time again, especially on this channel. And if you take a look at my other videos, if you go through the channel, I have a series on banking. And I always encourage people to develop relationships with their bank. I say develop a relationship with your bank if you are the borrower. if you find yourself is always in a jam and you need extra money or you need additional money, right? You make sure or you ensure that your credit is good, where you have a good credit rating. I encourage a relationship where your bank knows you, you're doing your transactions there, etc. And if you need any help, I encourage you to always go in your bank and ask your bank to borrow money. The reason why I see you should have a relationship or develop some type of relationship with the bank is because when you have a relationship with the bank and you develop a friendship or any type of money transactions, when I say relationship, I'm talking about like money transaction, that bank knows you. And if when you borrow that money from that bank, if they turn you down, nobody has to know. If they loan it to you, nobody has to know. In other words, you want to make a legitimate financial institution the place where you get money from, where they lend you money or you borrow money. So it's really a flip side to it. The bad part about it is that if you are the lender, if you're the creditor, you take a risk of not getting your money back. And if you're the borrower, that's been a situation where you need to borrow money from people constantly, you take a risk of being embarrassed, told no, and you know what? Whatever you wanted to pay for, because you couldn't get the money, you couldn't make the payment anyway. So it's really a catch-22. You're damn if you do, you're damn if you don't. My suggestion to anyone is this. Try your best to be financially self-sufficient, okay? I always encourage you, like I said, build your relationship with your bank. And the biggest part of it is put something away for a rainy day. I always encourage people, save your money. When you're run down and you're broke, and you can easily go to yourself, I'm talking about literally, if you have like an account somewhere else, I always talk about those high yield savings accounts. If you have some money stashed somewhere else, you do not need to pick up the phone. You don't need to text nobody. You don't need to ask nobody no question. You don't have to say anything to anyone. You know who you're going to call? You're going to call yourself, aka your bank. You're going to call yourself. You're going to call the place where you literally stashed your money that you could borrow. And I'm talking about like little small emergencies. This is how the wise do it. This is how people do it. Everybody gets run down. Everybody has their little money issues here and there. But the big thing or the big takeaway from that is that those people that have their money issues or need to borrow, when they have saved their money and they have put away something, they don't have to worry about picking up the phone and asking people for money. That's exactly how you fix that situation. There is no reason for you to be at anybody's mercy. Now, I'll tell you one last thing before, finishing this video. But before I do, if this is the first time you're joining me, please comment, like, subscribe, and share. Yeah, check out the other videos on the channel where I talk about saving money. I talk about how to get financing if you're doing your business, if you're trying to buy a home, etc. If you're just in the market of just trying to level up and make your money grow for you, check out the other videos on the channel. All right? If this is the first time you're joining me, my name is Mel, and this is Team You Credit and Finance. But the big takeaway that I'm telling to everyone, if you are the lender, if you're the person that's always lending people money, please make it a habit to stop. Don't enable bad habits. Don't allow people to use you. Don't allow people to only want to be in friendships with you because of what you can provide for them and so forth. Do not be a money supply to people that genuinely don't care about you. Many times they hang with you just because they know that you can only provide something for them. That is the reason why. They don't like you. They don't care about you. You don't want to be just a source of money supply for people. If you are the borrower in this situation, because I said this video is about lending and borrowing, why I think it's something that both parties, both sides need to really put a lid on. If you are the borrower, get into the habit of being self-sufficient. Get into the habit of having your own. Get into the habit of not depending on people. And the first way that you get into the habit of not depending on people is to basically pay yourself first. Take out something for you. Ensure that you have what you need. Okay? See, a lot of people, especially if you're the borrower, when you pick up the phone and you call people, you text people and try to get money from people, they're going to listen to you. But you have to understand that when they're listening to you, they're not listening out of genuine care or genuine interest. In other words, those people have no type of empathy towards your situation. They don't care. As I said in a lot of my prior videos, they just listen to listen. They just listen to basically make fun of you, to know where your weak points are. And at this stage in your life, I would think that we're not going to allow anybody to put us down. We're not going to be at anybody's mercy. So that's why I always say level up your money. Get out of the habit of lending money if you're lending, and get out of the habit of borrowing money if you're borrowing money. It's a lose-lose situation. There is no benefit for anyone. All right? So, drop me a comment. I'm going to put a comment here, and I want to ask, if you're the lender, can you tell me a time where you've loaned your money, to someone? Were you successful in getting your money back? Are you still lending people money? If you're the borrower, let me know if you've stopped borrowing. Have you become more self-sufficient? Are things working out a little bit better for you? And as a result, are you more financially empowered? Do you feel a lot better about the way your financial situation is now? Has it changed? Have you grown? All right? Whatever the situation is, please ensure that you're taking a stepping stone, you're taking a stand to say, listen, you know what? Enough is enough. This is a new beginning, right? I'd also like to tell people, I said, if you are even in a situation where you have to borrow all the time, you feel like you're not making as much as you need to make, empower yourself, level up yourself, change your career, try to have different growth, try to get something different and that's going to pay you more. In other words, take another step. If you have to go retrain and get a different career so you can have a little bit of money, then you retrain. You do it. Whatever you have to do to make it a little bit easier and a little bit better for you to get your money, get your money. All right? It's all about what you need to do so you can get to that next level. And with that said, people, I thank you so much. As I said, if this video resonates with you, please comment, like, subscribe, share. And I thank you for your time. Have a wonderful, wonderful day.